glorify you, Jesus. Magnify you, Lord. You're worthy of the glory, Lord.
The kingdom of heaven is at hand. I know that you've felt the changes of just the past week and a half. It's nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be worried about, nothing to even wonder and question or anything else. It's a season change. And what I want to make sure that we're getting as we're doing this part of about the kingdoms of this world is that you have many different spirits trying to rest on you during this time. You've had a fluctuation of emotions like you haven't understood, and to the ladies, I don't know what it feels like during a monthly cycle, but what I do understand is that for this time and season, the transitions that take place by spirits, it's very comparable to that. Very comparable to that from what I've observed of watching my wife, my daughter, sisters over the years, all of those things. When those times come, there's a different fluctuation that takes place. A lot more tears, a lot more emotional roller coaster, a lot more of all of those things. And this season, I know, as the shift has happened, you've been feeling things like that because it ain't just been happening to you. It's been happening to the men too. Now, if the men don't want to be honest, that's on them. But that fluctuation that takes place is a required thing. And that's one of the things I'm going to cover today, because in order for you to know how to embrace life, you have to be at the face of life and death. Because if you only have death put in front of you, and if you only have life put in front of you, you're not going to be able to distinguish the difference of the other if all you've had is one. So when all you've had is darkness, and this was going to help you with some of the friends that you've been deciding whether or not you need to cut off here recently. If all they've had is death, and that's the only thing they've been shown, that's life to them. That's what's life to them. That's the only thing they know. It's the only thing they've been shown. It's the only thing they've seen. It's the only thing they've understood. So now, this is where sometimes they have to have life put in front of them so that they can understand that death ain't the only way they got to live. But that's where you sometimes come into play. And once again, you may only be seed, okay? That's, I don't know who this is for, because this is touching what I'm going to deal with, but I'm trying to explain this in this way because he's giving me to explain it in this way. You may only be seed, okay? Not harvest. So in the process of you only being seed, then that means you're just supposed to plant and go. So the cutoff is needed. Now, you go home and you pray about that in extents. Don't say, Pastor told me to cut you off. You pray that in extent, but I'm wanting you to understand that you may have to be that seed, because when the word says, except a corn of wheat fall in the ground and die, it abides alone. So you're trying to stay there and stick with it and keep living and keep watering and keep doing all of that, and that's not your process. He's saying you've shown what I needed you to show. That's the seed I want them to have in their mind to come up later. But if you keep staying there, they're going to keep looking at you in your fluctuation, and then while they watch you in your fluctuation, they're going to use that as their justification to stay in the dead situation. Because you're going to go through some stuff emotionally here in the next 4 to 5 months. If they're there watching you, do that, they're going to, I'm staying right here. That's what they're going to say. I'm staying right here. I'm staying in my dead ways. Why should I try to come over there to life while I'm watching you go through this roller coaster? Now, once again, y'all take that how you need to take it and go in extensive prayer to find out when you need to cut off, if you need to cut off, and roll that way. Now, last week we concluded with the fact that you can be in the kingdom of God, in the will of God, but not yet be in the time of maturity. And knowing this is what will keep you from partaking in the kingdoms of this world. So this starts us out in our first kingdom that we're going to look at in the kingdoms of this world, which is the kingdom of men. Now, you already got some experience in this. You already know a little bit about it, and as we start going through and distinguishing it, you're going to understand how you've been playing a part in that. So go with me to the book of Daniel, chapter 4, verses 17 through 26 is what we're going to look at. Understand, I'm going to be cutting to the chase in this because I got to make sure you get this and all of these details as I'm going through this. Going to be painful, going to be direct, going to be remindful of some old times in your head, okay? But I got to do it in this compact form so that it gets across what needs to get across, okay? So in the book of Daniel, chapter 4, beginning at the 17th verse, it says this. Daniel chapter 4, beginning at the 17th verse, says this. It says, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth where? In the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar," which is the earthly name for Daniel, it says, "declare the interpretation thereof, for as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation. But thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee." Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts done what? Troubled him. The king spake and said, "Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee." Belteshazzar answered and said, "My lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon those branches the fowls of heaven of their habitation. It is thou, O king. Thou art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown, and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with the band of iron and brass, in the tender ground